Hello and welcome back to Bohemian Dragon. I am your hostess, Lori. And let me get the chat up. Maybe, possibly. Oh my god. Work with me here. Alright, there we go. Alright, chat's up. So, as you guys can see, we're starting out this day a little bit different than we have been. Because I need to be transparent with you guys before I go into today's promotions. You may have noticed that I privatized the video that I posted last week, the live stream that I did last week, and there's reasons for that, and I'm going to go into that. I fucked up. Let's just be perfectly honest. I fucked up. I had been approaching, these promotions as, a goodwill gesture to the community. I had been approaching these promotions as a, hey, the way to get the word out for indie creators, you know, to celebrate their accomplishments, to celebrate their tarot decks and their oracle decks and stuff. And I've tried really hard to make certain that I have put my support behind projects that I felt were good and, have made comments when I needed to, etc., etc. There was a deck that I covered last week that the end of the video, the woman's comments really, there was something about, like, some of her comments sprinkled throughout the video. Like, I thought it was just a language barrier issue, okay, because she's Swedish. So I thought, oh, maybe it's a Swedish to English translation thing. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. But there was something in the back of my head that was really, really bothering me about this Venus Angelic Tarot deck. I should have, and because of this, from now on, this is what I will be doing. I will be researching decks before I promote them. Instead of just taking whatever the newest decks are that have been released on Kickstarter, I will be researching them before I promote them because I got myself embroiled in something with promoting that deck last week that I should not have even touched. The long and the short of it is first off, Venus, if you ever see this, I owe you a huge apology. I am so, so sorry. Second, Margaret, who is trying to make the tarot deck, you're a bitch. Okay? I'm just going to call it like it is. I'm sorry. But you're a known child abuser, and you've been called out for that abuse multiple times, and now you're still trying to profit off of your daughter. You're still trying to make her suffer by using her image. You're stealing her images and using them in your tarot deck and labeling it with her handle. That is wrong. It is immoral, and it is wrong on so many levels. And the fact that I even gave you any airtime, any screen time, even today, just talking about this, makes me ill. I am nauseated even talking about this because I am wholly against child abuse. I escaped a narcissistic husband. I escaped mental abuse from my family, who used the term family and mom for an excuse to do things to me. Shame on you, Margaret. Shame on you. I fucked up. I should have done some research into it. But it wasn't until some of her little comments sparked a little red flag in me. I'm like, why do I feel like she's being manipulative? Why do I feel like I'm being gaslit? And it wasn't until I did research that I found out that this woman is highly problematic and has been accused by her own daughter of abuse. I went and took the time and actually watched a couple of Venus's videos. It is clear to me from somebody who's also a survivor that Venus struggles with PTSD. From her behavior, from the way she talks, from her mannerisms and her posture. So the fact that I even gave any type of promotion to this tarot deck. Just, I have been to the point of a full-on meltdown because I cannot even believe that I did that. So from here on out, every tarot deck that I promote on this channel, I guarantee I will be researching before I even put my seal of approval on it in any way, shape, or form. I should have done that from the get-go, but I didn't, and that's on me. And the fact that I covered that deck in the same video that I was congratulating 7 of Allie Mann's Tarot just makes me ill. It absolutely makes me ill because it's so unfair. It's so unfair to 7. It's so unfair to the other people that I covered in that video as well. So I'm going to recover a few other people today. But if you were giving any consideration to maybe backing that heinous deck, I wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. And I would highly encourage the rest of the tarot community to not even touch it, to not even look at it, to not even give it the time of day or any kind of backing whatsoever. Don't let that woman profit off of abusing her daughter. Don't let her do it. And I am so sorry, you guys. I am so sorry that I fucked up. I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard not to beat myself up about it because how was I to know? I can't know everything there is on the internet. There's 7 billion plus people on this planet and everybody's shouting to be heard. So mistakes are going to happen, but it really bothers me that I gave this woman any screen time whatsoever. So anyways, let's get to the actual good decks done by people who are not abusing their children or have abused their children. Let me... Okay. Make me smaller. Shrink me down. Okay. So, but of course, because I'm only going to be covering the decks now that I have done research on, that means that we're going to be kind of jumping around a little bit. So, the first one today is The Wandering Traveler. It says, explore the world of tarot through a fun and colorful deck based on the creator of the Bohemian Tarot Girls Adventures. And based out of Seattle, Washington. It says, the Wandering Traveler Tarot deck is a 78-card deck telling the story of the tarot through travel photos and graphics that represent the beauty of the world we live in. She says, the first tarot deck I held when I was young was a hand-painted deck made out of old playing cards. This deck incorporates the size, shape of the playing card suits into the background of the cards. It's my nod to the cards I loved so much as a child. Aw, cute. Okay, so she's got 2 videos here. Let's start with the first one. And we cross our fingers. No copyrighted music. Probably will be. That's okay. I can edit it out later.
Hey everyone, I'm Kendall, creator of the Bohemian Tarot Girl. Please make sure you follow me online at Instagram or Facebook or on our YouTube channel.
Okay, so I'm going to pause this real fast.
Thank you for joining me.
I want to show you guys, look behind her. So I'm always talking about how you guys can use tarot cards for artistic purposes. They don't have to be for reading fortunes. So if you really like somebody's art style, you know, buying their deck is a really good way to get a whole lot of artwork all at once. But she's got some of her favorite cards behind her framed, and that's something that you guys can do too. It's like you can take and you can display your favorites. All right, moving on.
Today marks the very first tarot deck that I put together. It's called The Wandering Traveler. The cards are based upon images of places I've traveled and my general life. And I went ahead and created it so it felt beautiful and visually appealing, while the deck is easy to take with you to travel with, and you're not going to feel bad
Hi,
necessarily, destroying some of these cards. I feel like I've kept it at a reasonable price. That way, you can feel free to take it with you and you're not.
I love that she made the size of the cards like regular playing cards so they're accessible for shuffling. Because I've got so many decks
and
where
it goes back to
I can't shuffle them because they're too big.
First deck that I actually got to see when I was a child.
I wish she hadn't done the music so loud I can't hear her.
That had been done over old playing cards, and I absolutely loved it, and that's what inspired this one. So if you look at the cards up close, you'll be able to see the cards and the suit behind it.
Oh, cute. That's a fun way of doing it.
Relate to. So it's just a fun, whimsical deck. I love the beauty of it, and you can see each of the cards individually in the video below in the body of the Kickstarter account. It does come with a travel box. It's just a standard kind of glossy playing card. The cards themselves are playing card material, and you'll notice the back. It's completely, you're not going to be able to tell if it's reversed or upright. That was very important.
Which is actually important.
Seeing with a white border actually around it, and it allows for you as a reader to make sure you're not being influenced or have your subconscious influenced, because the back of the card might show that it's upright or reversed, or you might see colors along the corner as you're drawing them. I wanted to make sure that you're able to read clearly and still enjoy the beauty of the cards. I want to thank everyone again for joining me. Please stay connected with me on my Instagram account. If you're interested in any of the bonus opportunities with the Kickstarter account, I do a manifestation reading, and it's 3 cards, and then I provide you this poster. If you're in the US, you can option to have it printed, or if you're outside the US, I'll provide you with a digital copy.
That's nice.
I have posters available of the cards with a little bit of message behind them. If you want to visit my website, The Bohemian Tarot Girl, you can also find information on each of the cards. I post spreads based on the energy, and so make sure to follow me on Instagram as well. Thank you again, and I really hope you enjoy my cards.
Cute. All right, so she said that she has a video below of the cards. Let's take a look. Oh my god, we're gonna just turn that way the hell down. They look so cute. They are cute. I love that they're soft and whimsical, but not too like cutesy whimsical. Because I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those decks, because I've seen those decks, they're adorable, but this has a very, I can definitely tell it flows with her bohemian-esque theme, but it also flows with that more of that kind of travel-esque sunset, highway sunset type of feel, especially with the colors. I see a lot of sunset colors, a lot of dawn colors in this. So it's very soft, kind of that twilight feel of, that you get when you're traveling and the sun's in the background or whatever, or, with the moonlight's coming down or whatever, that type of thing. So I just love that. The iconography too it seems like I'm big on, decks that have that kind of, mixed media feel to them. So there's that. Oh goodness. But there's there's art, the artwork seems to all flow together, and I think that's good. I think that's really good. I'm digging that quartz slab she's got everything on too. But you guys know me, I like my shiny rocks. I've actually been going through my stuff lately. I'm like, I got so many. Should I get rid of some? Nah. Alright. So she talks about the backside of the cards. And then she's got a... Oh, goodness, I'm so sorry. She's got a, fairly simple tuck box going on there. It says on the side, the key to the universe is within us all. Oh, cute. And then here's a manifestation reading and poster. Fun. And then it says the tarot poster frame not included. You can choose from one of the 4 minor arcana suits or them. Oh, so she's this is a poster that you can have framed. Oh, that's neat. That's fun. Okay. And then, of course, due to COVID shipping times. Oh, God. I don't know why I do this. Every time I come into a stream, I've actually been thinking about streaming gaming stuff on Twitch lately, and I keep thinking to myself, well, can I do it and not bore the audience? Because I yawn so often in these streams. Hold on, guys. People are going to think I'm bored with what I'm doing, and that's not the case. No energy levels, no. You haven't been in a lot of my streams, Sweeby, so you don't know. No, actually, what it is it's my sleep apnea. I'm actually, when we game too, Schweebs, I'm yawning between talking to you. You're just not hearing it, or seeing it, I should say. But no, it's the sleep apnea because I don't actually get enough air through my my nasal passages. I've had it fixed. Like, I've had intranasal reconstructive surgery and it's helped. So now I'm like not in the, I'm not going, gotcha. I didn't know that. Yeah, it's okay. Not everybody knows. So it's all good. I don't expect everybody to know everything about my medical ish. But yeah, though that's the thing is that it's just I just don't get enough oxygen, so when I'm talking a lot, unfortunately, that's what happens is I yawn. All right, so let's take a look and see. So looks like pledge of 30 or more and you get the deck, and then 45 you get the deck and the poster. 55 you get the deck in an online class, which that's kind of cool for those people who want it. And I think you do just fine gaming on Twitch. If anyone asks, it's always an easy answer. This is true. I don't know. I don't know that I really need to add one more project thing. So, it looks like we'll see. I have got, so sidebar, and this is coming in the you guys, this will be a taste preview for Saturday's vlog, but I gotta make some changes to the schedule as it stands right now, and I'll explain Saturday. Okay, so it looks like she's seeking 6,500 for her goal, which is pretty reasonable for what she's wanting to do. I mean, she's not got a lot of bells and whistles going on with this deck. I mean, she's not doing foil or anything like that. So I think that's a fairly reasonable goal. So let's go ahead and tweet this one out. Behave, Twitter. All right. And let's go back. Oh, that one's literally just dropped. Okay, I'm not going to cover that one because I haven't researched it yet, so I don't know. Hey, Quackly! Like I said, I'm only going to be covering decks today that I have fully researched because I I'm not going to get myself embroiled in yet another controversy. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so this deck I've actually been following Akka for a while now. She has been posting. How am I doing? I am doing pretty good. Um, uh, if you'd asked me that either earlier this week or last week, I probably would have looked at you and gone, "Yeah, really, bro?" Um, it's amazing what happens when you finally remember to take all your meds. Yeah. So, anyways. Oh, I see how it is. You're asking Shweeby how she's doing. Nobody's here for me! I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm quitting. Okay, alright. So, this is the Orphic Tarot. It has met its pledge goal, but that's okay. Been a rough week. Glad you're doing well. Oh, I'm sorry it's been a rough week for you, Quackly. That sucks. That really sucks. Um, I can empathize with that. So, um, anyway, so it's met its pledge goal, but she's definitely got some great uh at least in the works from what I understand, she's got some great stretch goals going on. But I have been following Akka's work now for a little while, probably for the last couple of months. She's been kind of posting to Twitter sporadically, and this is how I found her artwork, was through Twitter. So I was really, really proud of her when, within, like, I think it was like 24 hours or something like that, she hit her goal, her pledge goal on this, and then some, as you guys can see. Her artwork is stunning. So she's based out of Yokohama-shi, Japan. Um, and this isn't her first go around with a deck. She's actually created two others. She says she's born in Italy, living in Japan. She's been pretty much around the world and always on the run. So let's go into the Orphic Tarot. So it says, raw and philosophical deck that reunites the esoteric tradition of tarot with the wisdom of the ancient Greek Orphic Mysteria. Featuring gods and goddesses of the Orphic pantheon. Titans and titanesses, demigods and nymphs. So if you guys don't, let me pause this for a second. If you guys don't know what the Orphic is, our tarot cards, the ones that predict the future or something, they can be used to help divine the possible future, Quackly. So let me give you guys a little background. Tarot started actually as a card game sometime between somewhere between the 13th and 15th century. They're not exactly certain. They think they've got it narrowed down to about the 14th century. But tarot cards actually started out as a card game, and they're actually still played in some parts of Europe as a card game. So they started as court card games, played in the courts in Italy and France. So there is a myth running around that they are a closed practice to the Romani people. That's completely bullcrap. But they started out as a court card game. So back in the 14th century or so, the royals and the people of the court and stuff, they would get bored very easily. And so new card games were coming out quite frequently during this time period. And so the tarot is one of them. And it was then later adapted to be used for potentially divining the future. Now, when I'm reading for other people, what I tell people is that the tarot cannot predict the future. The tarot can only tell you what will happen if nothing changes. Okay? So if you change nothing about the situation, if you change nothing about how you respond to it, if nothing changes, then it has the potential to tell you what will happen. But more often, tarot and oracle cards are used as kind of a way to give insight into, like, say, higher thought processes and doing work on oneself. Sometimes they're used for help with relationships and stuff, but more often they're used for personal work of that kind of nature. So that's to give you a little bit of background for that. One of the things that I love about modern tarot, though, is that if you have a particular artist whose work you especially love and follow, it is a great way to collect that artist. Okay, seems interesting. Only card game ever plays Yu-Gi-Oh. That's okay. Um, that is all right. So not everybody's well versed in card games, and that's okay. Um, but anyways, I lost my train of thought. Where was I? Oh, artist work. So, one of the things I love about modern tarot is that, if you have a particular artist that you follow and stuff, it is a great way, one, for an artist to get a lot of their artwork out there very, very quickly. Two, it's a great way for them to interact with people who collect their artwork because the traditional tarot deck is 78 cards. So, that's 78 pieces of artwork that you can collect from your favorite artist. So it's a really great way to collect artwork. It's a great way to display artwork, and just have collector stuff. That I know some people that they don't even read tarot or even believe necessarily in the divination part of tarot. They have the cards purely for the artwork. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so let's continue with the video. Says this is a powerful divination tool for the bold and daring and the inquisitive minds. I love that it's got one overarching theme. So the Orphic Mysteries. Now this is an 80 card deck. So why that's non-traditional is, like I said, the original decks are 78 cards, okay? One of the things I'm loving too about modern tarot is that you get these interesting takes on the original, 78 card deck, and you get people who do, like the most recent one, which I covered last week. I'm going to cover it again this week. Is the Alleyman's Tarot. But so this one, like I said, based out of Japan. The Orphic Mysteries are kind of, so a lot of us in school learned like the Greek and Roman pantheons, okay? We learned about the Greek and Roman goddesses and kind of how they played out, during that time period in, Greek and Roman history and how the gods interacted with the people in so-called mythology and stuff, okay? The Orphic Mysteries took into account like the greater part of the pantheon, okay? So the Orphic Mysteries talked about things like the nymphs, because like if you look at the core mythologies of Greek and Roman mythology, it focuses primarily on just a certain handful of gods and goddesses and doesn't necessarily talk about all of the other mythos that goes into it. It's referenced in those mythologies that we read, but it's not necessarily talked about in a very deeper aspect. Like you only briefly hear about the titans and titanesses, you only briefly hear about like the nymphs and the dryads and the satyrs and all of that. And so I think it's great that she has taken that and kind of made it a whole theme, and not just, Zeus, Diana, Artemis, like not all just the ones we know. I mean, they're kind of in there, but it's not everything. So I think that's great. All right. So, and she has an actual introductory video on orphanism. And she may explain just a little different than I do. Oh, we're not going to be able to read that. Okay. We'll just keep going. Okay. She says, the Orphic Tarot is meant to be a eulogy to the dearest person in my life. Aww. I'd forgotten about that. I hope she will get the message which I wish to spread through this project. And she shows off. She says the Orphic Tarot deck revolves around the theme of life, death, and rebirth, which is the recurrent references of the myth of Orpheus, his symbolic descent to the underworld, and his return to the land of the living. It is particularly indicated for shadow work, self-healing, and medium channeling. It has a powerful and solemn and firm energy, akin to the Eye of the Typhoon kind of electric quietness. So, and then she's got some more pictures. I love that her artwork, you can clearly see, is, I mean, she's got some stippling going on in here. I mean, you can tell she uses a lot of ink and pen work. Like you can see, and sometimes it's really neat and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you like seeing those pen strokes, and in this case, I love that it's part of her artwork, those pen strokes in there. You know, you can tell that this was hand drawn and not necessarily done digitally. Not that there's anything wrong with doing the artwork digitally, but you can almost feel like, when you see, like when you push too hard on the paper and it leaves an indentation with the pen, you could almost see it, feel it, even though it's a reprint, you can almost see it in the artwork. That depth, that attention to detail. I think that just makes it all the more poignant, for the artwork. The red, white, and black theme is very much in tune with the life, death, rebirth symbolism. Whereas life is represented by the white, the black is representative of death, and red is representative of rebirth. So um, it's just an overall neat deck. So she says that she's got two bonus cards, um, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, which I definitely think goes with the theme. So she is seeking, run back up here, 7,975, which she has met and then some. So I think this is a really neat deck. Like I said, I've been following her for a while now, and I am happy to see that this is already fully funded. She's got some very interesting add-ons that are very different than anything I've seen before. For tarot decks, oftentimes with tarot decks, I see add-ons of like, a bag or an extra box or a tarot cloth or some crystals. She did something a little bit different. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, yes. Okay, so she did do the bags, which I think are really neat. These, you know, these little linen drawstring bags that have been hand stenciled. She did a pen, which is really cool. Cloth, of course. But then she did these amulets, which I just think are really super neat. And reminiscent of they're nightmare fuel, but in a cool way. Kind of. I mean, I wouldn't want any of them to come out of the dark at me. I mean, I could definitely see the kind of maybe the little bit of the horror vibes going on with it. But I just think it's her particular artwork. The like her interpretation of the artwork. It's got a kind of almost if you've seen like the older Japanese tapestries concerning like the malevolent spirits, it's kind of got a little bit of that feel to it. But she's got these zodiac themed charmed as well. And then she's got these handmade dolls, which I just thought were super neat. And something that nobody else has done. Of course, they're limited to, however many she's made. But it was just something different that I've not seen any other tarot deck creator do. These little dolls. So I thought that was kind of different and fun, and they're already sold out. Like they sold out like that. So this is the Orphic Tarot. We're gonna go ahead and give this a shout out here. Eh, eh. All right, close Twitter. All right. Moving down. All right, so I covered this one last week, but I'm going to cover it again because things happened. And she's almost reached her goal, which I think is really cool. So it says the Ocean Tarot deck, a full tarot deck of ocean flora and fauna. And she's seeking 25,000, which is quite a bit, but that's okay. Some printing processes take a little more than others. Uh, she says that my first attempts at what I deemed to be a serious art were variations on sharks. Ooh, yes. Ooh. So this artist has done other decks before. Hi, Riot. She has done a cat and a dog themed deck before, so now she's turning to ocean themed. I just think this is super neat. You don't often see, uh, like, I mean, I've seen cat themed decks, I've seen dog themed decks, I've seen dragons and fairies and stuff, but I've not seen a lot of ocean decks. So this is really super cool. Um, and let's see where she goes. Okay, she says, I poured over a small guidebook from a book fair, copying each unique snout and jaw. I spent forever making sure that their dorsal fins were properly notched, each eye was placed correctly, and dotted with the perfect highlight. My repertoire grew to include dolphins. I drew them everywhere, ritually adding a tiny dolphin at the end of my middle school signature. Okay, who else had a little thing that they put on the end of their signature in middle school? Was it me? Was I the only one? I thought this would be educational because I want to do a tarot deck of my comic book characters someday. Oh, well, definitely hang around, Riot, because you learn a lot seeing how other people have done their campaigns. Because I definitely cover a wide range. So, and if you have questions, feel free to ask. I will answer whatever you need to know. So, all right, moving on. Uh, so then I love that she's got the narwhal for the star. She says, around the same time I was getting deep into marine biology, I was also nourishing my spooky side. My obsession with tarot is about as old as mine with the sea, but it never crossed my mind to make a tarot deck about the ocean. It felt too nebulous to capture it in even 78 different ways. It was genuinely dizzying at times how rich in life the oceans are, leading to a few scrapped attempts at more refined tarots. Cephalopod, Setian, deep sea, Arctic, tropical, invertebrate, even sea monsters and lore. In the end, I had to select a few personal favorites and try my best to include a thoughtful variety of sea life, which I think she did very well. So, all right. Whales and squids and all sorts of things. So she says, as with prior decks, the framework was fortunately somewhat in order. So she's using the Rider-Waite tarot symbolism. Now there's two. Ooh, Nautilus, yes. So when you're doing tarot, when you're doing any kind of like fortune telling decks, there's oracle decks, which can have any theme, any amount of cards that you want. Um, it doesn't matter, though. I will tell you that typically the sweet spot seems to be around 48 to 52 cards on oracle decks. It all depends on how easy they are to shuffle. I'm a big proponent of decks that are easy to shuffle because I have small hands with arthritis and fibromyalgia. Um, but with regular tarot, there is the Marcellus tarot, which isn't as popular or as common, and then there's the Rider-Waite system, which is primarily what you see. There's the overall general themes that go with each individual card, and then there is kind of the artist's interpretation themes on the different cards. As if you're going to go into tarot or oracle reading and stuff for yourself as kind of a personal development type of thing, each deck, while they do have kind of in the Rider-Waite system, does have like an overall theme for each card or an overall meaning for each card. There are little minor variations of interpretation that can be put into those based on the iconography, the colors that are used, and the artwork. So just something to keep in mind. She says she primarily used the Rider-Waite Tarot system. With cats and dogs, it was easy enough to add elements from Rider-Waite, but sea creatures required more unique solutions. Everything from armor to crowns had to be worked around to still tell the story important to each card. So, for instance, she shows mock ups here of the Knight of Wands, which is the Nautilus, and then she's got the Knight of Wands from her dog deck and from her cat deck, and just to kind of show you how she had to change things just a little bit to make it work within that Knight of Wands type of iconography. So, and then she says this also includes removing the elaborate clothing from my previous decks for ocean creatures. Gowns and hats took away from the colors and textures that are vital to sea life. Which makes sense because, like, here's the Empress here, it's this gorgeous whale. Well, you wouldn't want to put a gown on that whale, you just wouldn't want to do that. But on the Chihuahua, sure, absolutely. And the cat, absolutely. So, creating each illustration also presented a lot of new personal challenges for me. I haven't worked with color in years, but more importantly, it required. So, her other two decks were black and white, by the way. She says, important required rendering, something I've always avoided, water. But you could put a gown on a whale. Well, yeah, you could, but would you really want to? I don't know that you'd really want to, Schweebs. So, she says, water was one of my final gauntlets as an artist, and I'm honestly glad that I forced myself to tackle this. She's not wrong. Water is. Yeah. Anything that has a potential fluid dynamic is problematic. I really wish I have had a great Aunt Sharon who I consider in some ways like a family mentor, though I never really knew her. She unfortunately got sick and passed when I was very young. And someday I'm going to own one of her paintings, God damn it. But she absolutely could render water and paint in a way that you felt like you were just standing on the seashore. And that's what she did. It was she painted, nature scenes when she was alive. So some people can do water really well. Some of us struggle. She says, while I've grown immensely as an artist with each deck, this one holds a special place. Oh goodness, here we go. As it provided a wonderful distraction during a fair amount of 2020, because we all needed distractions during 2020. Some of us just ate ourselves to death. Doing art probably would have been a lot healthier, but she says the entire suit of wands for the Ocean Tarot is mostly cephalopod themed, which I think is really cool. To wrap up this bit of rambling and hopefully to make a point, the ocean is an immense and incredible biome that we're lucky enough to share a planet with. This tarot was truly a joy to work on from research to final illustration. I hope that this deck can pass on a sense of awe and curiosity. As a way to make this more accessible, I will be offering a PDF with each tier, which, by the way, is not something that a lot of artists do because they get concerned that their work's going to get ripped off. But I think it's really neat that that's what she's doing to make it accessible, because it is really difficult for some people, especially now with the new VAT fees, which, if you don't know what those are these special kind of, like, think of them like the customs fees that we have to pay sometimes to import stuff in. VAT fees are like that for Europe. And because of how complicated they are, a lot of people in Europe now are unable to buy from the US. So they see stuff like this and they want to support it, and then knowing that getting the deck even into their country might be difficult. So being able to get a PDF copy makes it that much more accessible for them. And I think that was a really good idea on her part to do that. Really helps with keeping it available for other countries, because there's people that I know there's a small handful of countries where they can buy stuff online but they can't receive it. I think Iran's one of them. I think, if memory serves me correctly, and I think there's a couple of Turkish countries too where it's like they can buy it, they can pay for it and stuff, but they can't actually receive it in the mail because it's against religious constraints and stuff. And so they have to keep it low key, hush hush. So hiding a digital PDF is a little bit easier for them over there in those countries than hiding an actual physical deck, which they would have to receive in the mail. So I think that was a really. Oh, I saw a previous comment on Yu-Gi-Oh! Fun fact: there is an archetype based on the major arcanas of the tarot deck called Arcana Force. That doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of mythology and kind of esoteric iconography in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering both. So that really doesn't surprise me. But thank you for letting me know, Riot. She says she's made two other decks via Kickstarter. Extremely happy with how the final products turned out. So she's not new to this. She knows what she's doing, which is good. Um, you know, she said I'll be working on a third edition of the dog deck and a second edition of the cat to match the new ocean deck. That means two small changes: one, fixing the design error on both the cat and dog boxes, and two, upgrading the quality of the box to include texture and silver embossing, which is really cool. Um, So she's going to be offering these as kind of reprints as well, which I think is nice. The silver gilt edging is kind of a fun thing to have on cards. Unfortunately, if it's not done well, it can flake off. I have one deck that has silver gilt edging on it that unfortunately quite a bit of it has flaked off. But I do use that deck very often, so that doesn't surprise me much. Um, She says, more importantly, and to the topic at hand, I would like this ocean deck to be gorgeous, a beautiful object. Ideally, the box will be a deep blue flocked or velvet texture with gold embossing. Well, that's impressive. The cards, that explains why she wants so much, because flocking and velvet texture with gold embossing, all that on a box, that's incredibly expensive to do print wise. So that explains it. She says the cards themselves will be 2.76 by 4.7 inches, which is now considered the new standard for tarot deck size. They're about, I want to say, about the length of my hand, so about yay-ish long. So, and about, of course, yay-ish wide. It makes them fairly easy to shuffle. And then it says, and include gold foil edges on high quality 350 GSM paper with matte UV finishing. Um, if you're going to do a deck riot, you don't want anything less than 350 GSM on paper, just FYI. A lot of artists go for black core because it keeps from light from passing through, so it doesn't dilute your artwork on either side, but can make certain colors appear a little more muted than they should be. So it's you have to kind of balance that one. It's not always necessary to do black core. She's doing matte UV finishing, which I think is nice. It'll give them, it'll keep them from being too shiny. All right, I gotta go. Hope you guys have fun. Okay, bye, Riot. She says this is the same quality present in my cat tarot and second edition dog tarot deck. Then she's got some stretch goals. She says that, current budget is higher than previous campaigns. Will cover cover stock, updated boxes, booklets, and shipping. She says, I'm fortunate enough to break that. If I'm fortunate enough to break that, I'd like to offer all sorts of goodies. But she wants to remain flexible, so she's not kind of putting it out there yet. So she's talking about postcards or altar cloths are two options. So, anyways, that is that. She says this deck is meant to last at least one lifetime. I think that's cute. Okay. So this is, I think this is an absolutely stunningly gorgeous deck. Um, I keep wanting to show this one to Meg, my friend Meg, because she really loves sharks. And this Temperance card right here, I kind of wish I could get a print of just this, just for my daughter Aurora, who loves manatees. All right, let's tweet this one out. All right. Now, Now, I covered Rambling Mike's last week. Um, I have done some more research into that one, and I don't feel comfortable re-promoting it, even though I said I was going to re-promote stuff from last week that, got stuck, unfortunately, in the video with this shit deck that nobody should be supporting. Um, but I have some concerns about the Rambling Mike's one that I brought up last week. But in short, my concern is they're asking for quite a lot of budget, but they don't have all of the artwork done, and they're saying that it's going to be like not until the end of 2022 before, or even beyond that, before the deck is even in anybody's hands, and that has me a little concerned, because while production, I understand increased production time because of COVID, it shouldn't take almost 2 years to do. So I covered this one, the Landback Tarot and Oracle, in a previous video, and I wanted to give you guys a short little update on it. I am exceedingly happy to see that this deck has reached its pledge goal. So this deck was created by I can't call her a Native American because she's not from America, she's actually from Canada. So she's an indigenous from Canada, and she has created basically a kind of an indigenous version of tarot slash oracle. So it's two decks in one. It's a tarot deck and an oracle deck. That's anti-colonial, decentering of realities, as she puts it, because there are so many decks out there that cover so many different themes. I mean, we have decks that are for gays, we have decks for non-binaries, we have decks for, blacks, whites, Asians. I mean, we got all sorts of, different decks, but there haven't been a lot of Native American decks that were done by actual Native Americans, or in this case, indigenous people. There's not a lot of indigenous decks that are done by indigenous people. And so there wasn't really anything that had that kind of iconography around it that was, in support of that. So I thought I personally did not back this deck because my budget for deck backing is literally to the breaking point this year. I have 3 more decks I've already committed to backing that haven't launched yet. The Annie Stokes Dragon deck, the Three Trees or Trees, I can't remember from the name of the brand, Dragon deck, 2 Dragon decks, and then the Color Tarot Project, which is upcoming. They should be launching next week or this weekend, I can't remember which, and then I will be promoting them the week after they launch. Not the same day they launch, because I don't know the exact date they're launching. But so I've got 3 other decks I'm committed to, and then I'm done. I have to be done for the year. I have committed to too many decks. So I'm really hoping though that this one takes off and does really, really well, and it already has. So she's from Maple Leaf, Canada. Elizabeth Newell, aka Krista Flute. So and I'm not going to replay the video and stuff because like I said, I've covered it in a previous video. But I'm really, really happy for you, Krista, that this got funded, and that it is gonna. Okay, Twitter, come on, go away. And that it is gonna actually go into production. So, and last one. As soon as I can get down to it, hold on. There it is. So, so real fast, the Phantom multi-dimensional tarot deck, I've mentioned them a couple of times. They are, this deck is really neat because not only do you get the tarot deck, but it also has an app that goes with it that has augmented reality in it. So I thought that was really fun. I did back this one. And it's fully funded now. But the one I wanted to talk about was the Alleyman's Tarot, which I did bring up last week, and I wanted and congratulated Seven, who created this project. It is a mismatched tarot deck made up of 137 cards from other decks, old and new alike. So, but one of the things that Seven decided to do was they decided to do pre-orders as well for anybody who didn't get in on the original backing, but the pre-orders only go until June 13th. So if you missed backing pledging this when it was up for the pledge and you're at all interested in this, get in your pre-order, because this is a one-time printing. When it's gone, it's gone. And due to the popularity of this deck, I fully see this deck being one of those collector's decks that end up going later on eBay for like a grand. I was actually talking with somebody on Twitter earlier today. She had been looking for the now discontinued Nymphs Tarot that Llewellyn had put out. And unfortunately, the prices that were being quoted to her on Amazon were a little astronomical. They were over $300. And she's like, "Is it a scam?" And I'm like, "No, unfortunately. I have out of print decks that were popular become very quickly collector's items for a lot of people. There's people like me who they collect decks, not just for reading purposes, but also as kind of a collection purposes. I mean, people collect pins, some people collect tarot decks. So, but I actually have a deck that has been out of print since either the early 80s or the 60s. I can't remember which. I think it's the early 80s. That was done by Clive, what did I say, Barker, Baker? I'm probably butchering his name. Anyways, it's been out of print for a long time. And I got lucky enough that sometime in the early 2000s, I had wandered into this thrift shop and found it just randomly sitting in a freaking hair tie in this thrift shop, and I picked it up. And whenever I see it come up on eBay, it regularly goes for 300 or more on eBay. So this deck, the Alleyman's Tarot, within a year or two's time, of it, after production, I see this being a huge collector's deck. So if it's something that you guys are interested in, please jump in on it before the pre-orders close on June 13th. Because I would hate to see somebody miss out. It's a really neat deck, and for those of us, originally when I covered this deck, I wasn't going to back it because like my ADHD was like, oh, that's a little too messy for my ADHD because every single card is different. No two cards are alike. It's a mismatch from all different decks and stuff. It's like somebody went and rifled through several dumpsters to gather cards to make one very large tarot deck. What made me end up backing this was I was rereading a series of books by Anne Bishop. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, I sing the praises of Anne Bishop. I love her books. If you've not read her books, go read her books. But she has a series called The Others. And in this series, the main protagonist she's kind of a prophet, not to give too many spoilers away, but she's kind of a prophet. But her main mode of declaring prophecy is somewhat problematic. So in order to try and find an outlet for prophecy that doesn't involve the problematic part, she ends up, with the help of some of her friends, ends up creating this kind of deck that's made up of like 5 or 6 other tarot decks all kind of thrown together in this big box. And then she goes in and she feels around, and based on, the kind of the impression that she gets when she's sticking her hands in the cards, it's whatever she pulls out. And that made me went, oh, because I was rereading the books and I'm like, oh yeah, well that's like the Alleyman's Tarot. And I was like, and then when I was reading the books, I'm like, that's a really cool concept. I personally would not take any of my tarot, I wouldn't take my tarot decks and throw them all in a box together because that would drive me nuts. But if the deck itself was already that way, well, then it wouldn't be a problem because it's already built that way. So I went ahead and backed this. Before it got, before the project ended. But again, Seven, I'm really proud of you for this project because this is the most backed, I think, if memory serves me correctly, tarot deck now of all time on Kickstarter, and has beat the original max funding. So, like, I think the original placeholder or reigning champion for the most amount funded was like something where around 1,300,000 or something like that, and Seven uh, who is the creator of this deck, beat that out of the park. So, congratulations to Seven. And I'm going to leave you guys here. So, do you guys have any questions for me about any of this before I run off into the sunset for the night? Anything at all? I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Now, as what's your favorite out of these that you've shared? Um, that I've shared besides the ones that I've already backed? Oh, goodness. Of the ones I've already, if I'm not counting the ones I've already backed that I shared with you guys today, probably the ocean one. Yeah, yeah. Just because the artwork is definitely up my alley. I mean, I have an appreciation for the Travelers theme one. I do. But I'm not like when I have to think about like the design aesthetic that I tend to reach for, and I tend to reach more towards that watercolor feel, which is what the Ocean deck has more often than I reach for that sunset California vibin type of feel, And I'm not saying that the Travelers one doesn't have its a personal appeal. It does, but if I had to choose, I I feel like I feel like the parent is like, who's your favorite child? Don't make me choose. And I'm not answering that one. I'm not answering. Like, I'm not telling you who my favorite child is. I don't have any favorites. I can tell you my favorite cats. No, kidding. I love them all too. They're all my fur babies. So, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Shweeby and Quackly and Riot for hanging out with me today. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope to see you all next week. Bye!